What's going on, guys? So we are out here with our 2021 Coachman Brookstone. I'm gonna get the slides open. We just got back from a trip, and unfortunately we have to do some repairs. A few things aren't working right. Okay, so we have some work to do in here. So right now, the first problem that we had whenever we went camping recently is these four lights, these lights, and the lights in here aren't working. Now you may see a light on right there and a light off right here. These are simply plug-in little wall outlets that give us the ability to turn lights on. That has nothing to do with the video today. Those are working perfectly fine. The problem we have is this switch right here. Nothing's turning on. Now, I installed the dimmer switch up top there, which has been working perfectly. All of this stuff was working before we hit the road, but it's not working anymore, at least back here. So the way the wiring runs to all this and what we're gonna have to diagnose is gonna be underneath it. Let's talk about it. Hang tight, I'll be right back. So the way the wiring is ran to all this is relatively simple, actually. So essentially what happens is our 12-volt wires, as well as 120, go underneath the RV between the frame rails, and then it goes up the back wall. Then you have your 120 outlets back here, and then you have your 12-volt wire that goes up to those three switches right there, which you really can't see right now because I can't turn the light on. And it branches to those three, or splits off to those three, and then the other side goes to ground. So it completes the circuit, in other words. Power's coming in from the bottom. So we're gonna have to get under the RV, drop panels down to see what's going on. And this is probably gonna be a very helpful video for a lot of folks because it's gonna show you how to access some of the wires that you have available. And color coding does help for sure, but you still got to get under there and probe around and figure out where the wires are. If you don't know where the wires are, they won't help at all. Now, going to a wiring harness is a really, really great idea for a lot of manufacturers, and it may not actually be a bad idea for preventing whatever's happening from happening here. But I don't know why the power is not getting to those switches. And until we determine that, it's hard to say what a remedy to that would have been. So we're going to start dropping some panels, unfortunately, because I have no idea where that break is, and even if it's under any specific section. So it's going to be it's not going to be an easy day. Let's just say this is not a fun repair. This is something that is needed, but it's definitely a bit more involved in terms of getting to everything. Okay, so the challenge I'm going to have to work around here is going to be from under here. I got to drop all these panels, and then I got to specifically see and trace back where the wire that's coming up the back here into the slide, or sorry, into the back wall is, so I can probe if that wire is getting power, which right now I know that the wire going to the switch is not getting power. And you can see some wires over here. A lot of those wires are marker light wires, and I can tell that some wires also kind of travel up. So we're gonna have to kind of, again, hunt everything down to see if we can find the wires we're looking for. And hopefully I don't have to drop too many of these panels, because it is not the easiest process in the world to access all this stuff and get under here to figure out what's going on. And you don't have a heck of a lot of room to work. So we're gonna start probing around, and I'm gonna see if I can find out where the wire actually is, and if we can make any progress towards figuring out why I'm not getting any power to that switch. Okay, so I just used a probe to test these wires right here, which they told me pink and white would be the wires going to the back, and I'm not getting 12 volt at either one of those wires, which means that I'm gonna have to drop some panels. And this is gonna turn into a much bigger project. So gotta start breaking out the right screwdriver bits. If you see that panel right there where it connects, I actually did that because what was I doing? I was doing something underneath here. I can't even recall what it was. I'm sure I did a video on it a long time ago where I recall I had to drop these panels down, and that was the easiest or best way to make a seal between those two panels. And it worked out really well, and it's still working out really well. So gotta drop all that down and see what's going on under here. Okay, so I have one of the panels down. Taking a look under here. There were some rat droppings under here, so definitely got to this space. But what I don't see is a wire that's been chewed through. So the wire that I believe I'm looking for is going to be this one right here. And it goes up right there, out the side, and to this back wall. At least that's what it appears. Well, then there's another one right here. Okay, so with the panel down, I was able to look in here and find my culprit right there. Check that out. Wire has been chewed through. It's crazy that it only went through the power wire, not the ground wire. But I don't have a heck of a lot of slack right here. So I'm gonna have to kill power to the RV, because what I don't want to have happen is I ground out on something. This is all plastic. Well, no, that's plastic and wood right there. This is all steel. There's my broken wire. Just have to get to it so I can fix it. This side is hot, that side is not. That side's what goes to the switch. So just need to strip that down, get to it, and put a connector on it. Okay, so I made a new pass through right here. I cut the old wire off that was damaged, which is laying around here somewhere. Attached the new wire, or at least cut the ends off. Use some marine grade heat shrinkable connectors. I'm going to seal all this up. So this is obviously where one of the rodents got in. It chewed a bit of my main AC 120 power cord coming in as well. So I'm going to have to fix that. It didn't go all the way through. It just barely made it through the outer sheathing. I'm going to fill all of this up, and then I need to seal off this bottom part right here, because this is also a path for them to get in. So I'll probably just take some wire mesh, go from here to here, and just cover this entire space just so they can't even get to this cavity at all. But it is a pain in the butt dealing with rodents. I'm trying to see if there's any other route that they got in here. Doesn't look like it. We'll seal that off as well, and hopefully not have to deal with them anymore. But lights should work now, so I'm going to go inside of the RV and see if all my lights work. Okay. Now, just want to see if everything works here. It should come on. Check that out. All my lights are working again. It's a bit of an undertaking. It's more difficult getting to everything than it is actually doing the repair, but it's very satisfying knowing that you fix something like this. So yeah, I'm gonna try to seal everything back up, take a couple shots of that, and then we'll wrap the video up. You know, before I get to that, this is a perfect opportunity to say there's so many things that people would just attribute to an RV being built poorly, such as, you know, all of a sudden lights not working. Some folks would have taken this in, some folks would have dealt with it that way to find out that a rat got in and ultimately did the damage. If you're in a home, you catch things quicker because you can hear things. You listen for the sound of scurrying feet, or you look at things that aren't working because they were working 10 minutes ago and they're not working now. This is what I'm talking about when I constantly preach you have to spend time in your RV taking care of it, because if you don't, nature will, and that's what happened here. You know, rats, they're nasty, they're pests, they're rodents. And the reality, though, is that they're just animals, and they're looking for a warm place. They're looking for a place they're not going to get disturbed very much. They're looking for a place where they can have their babies and they can eat, where they can poop, all that stuff. And if you provide them a place that's unoccupied, that is not routinely moved in, not routinely checked, that's where they're going to thrive. So catching things like this is super important. I'm so glad we caught it. I'm going to look at all the wiring under there to make sure there's no other spots where something like this could have been happening. But it seemed as if the only reason he ate through the wire so he could get through the hole, because the rats out here, I think they're Norwegian rats, are huge, and they need space because they're not like the small little mice that can get through like a half-inch opening. That said, let's get out there, let's patch all that stuff up, let's seal it up, and let's see if we can prevent them from doing that again. Okay, so I went ahead and cut off all this extra slack. I'm going to remove this plug and attach this plug, or if I can find the 50 amp plug I had on the Surveyor when I removed it and put a smart plug on. I don't have another 50 amp smart plug, so we're just going to go with the standard 50 amp twist lock connector. If I can find that one, then it should be really simple just to swap it out and put it on, because you can see that one right there, one of these was broken. right there. I don't know if you can see that that one's broken. Might make it difficult to take off. Chewed portion is right here. We have plenty of slack inside the RV to go ahead and run the cable still to this, and we'll be removing about 4 feet of cable that's not really needed, so should be good. Okay, so we have the plug rewired. We had plenty of extra slack, so we still have some extra slack. Rewired the 50 amp connector here on the back side, or the inside of the RV and the outside. This was already on there. This definitely would have helped in terms of preventing the rat from doing as much damage as he did. Well, actually no, this cable right here was ran up, looped around where we had our slack. And because it was looped around here, that's really where the problem is. Because of how this is set up now, there's really no way for a rat to get to this, which is really nice. So we're gonna seal off around this area right here, probably seal off this whole back area, just to prevent anything from coming from the outside and getting in right here as well. It's just gonna be the challenge of kind of covering up just the openings here, but we're gonna try to get that figured out and get this job wrapped up. Okay, so I'm out of breath. I attached this a little differently than I planned. I had a scrap piece, so I just kind of put it over that opening. There's no way a big rat's gonna crawl through here anymore. That's all sealed off right here. Some extra wire right there. I'm gonna trim it off a little bit more, but I think this should definitely help keep the underbelly free and clear. There's a couple little spaces here where it's a tiny little opening. It's probably a 1/2 inch opening. I don't think anything's gonna be able to get into that space to be able to get to that space, just because there's no gap in between any of this stuff. So I think we'll be okay right there. I might go ahead and take some foam and just kind of get in there with some foam insulation and just seal all of this up. And I got to trim this piece off right here, but just about done with this area so we can start closing up the underbelly. So we are done. We have power going back to the RV. Underbelly is covered up. I got foam everywhere that I thought there still may be a bit of a gap. The world is rotating correctly again. We are good to go. Honestly, this just goes to show you that you have to be vigilant about taking care of your RV. Otherwise, everything that can crawl out from the brush will. It'll get inside of it. It'll find a way. If it's not big, it'll be small. So if it's not a large Norwegian rat, it'll probably be a small field rat. And you just don't want to run into the scenario that just because you're not maintaining your RV, it's dying. And there are so many folks out there. I know they fall into this category because I just fell into this category of people who have an RV. You know, if I wasn't aware of what possibly could have been wrong, I probably would have gone into this going, you know, a connector probably came apart because of shoddy craftsmanship at the Coachman factory. But the reality is, I knew it had to have been deeper and more extensive than that, just because of rodents, and just because if they get in there, they might chew on something and they might cause damage, just like they did. Anyways, guys, this is just a clear example of what happens if you don't constantly keep an eye on something important to you like your RV that you spend a lot of money on, and you don't inspect and you don't look for things that could potentially cause problems. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was definitely a hard 3 hours of work working on this, getting this set up the right way, repairing the wiring, cutting out bad wiring, putting new wiring in to get this thing working again. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.